Historical note. One of the things I love most about writing historical fiction is the research. It is also one of the greatest perils of writing it. Even after the years of learning about the Great Chicago Fire, I'm still finding new details about that night in October 1871. My research approach has always been to start with the general knowledge and narrow the scope. I rely on digital archives and primary sources for most of my information, and always give higher priority to first-hand accounts such as journals, letters, newspaper articles, and books published in the same time period. The Library of Congress's Chronicling America website is a treasure trove of online newspaper articles for most major cities in the United States, and was a wealth of information as I delved into early Chicago. Another essential resource that informed this story was the 3-volume History of Chicago from the earliest period to the present time by Alfred Theodore Andreas. Published in 1885, it gives a glimpse into the early settlement of the Garden City and is a comprehensive reference on what Chicago looked like before and after the conflagration. A fascinating fact I learned while consulting the above resource was that there were 2 Palmer House locations. The first was built in September 1870 on State and Quincy Streets. Both locations were burned in the fire. A number of first-hand accounts and several Chicago Tribune articles in late 1870, early 1871 refer to the Palmer House, though it took more digging and sorting to realize that it was not where the current hotel was rebuilt. The second location was just being built on State and Monroe. From the sources I've read, the foundation had just been laid, upon which the Palmer House was rebuilt and the current hotel is today. From all the research I've done, the Palmer House that is referred to in first-hand accounts, many recorded staying in that fine hotel at the night of the fire, must have been the location on Quincy and not the location on Monroe, which I think is the usual assumption. The location on State and Quincy was never rebuilt. Another thing to note is, though I have no historical confirmation that either the sweatshops or the meatpacking industry were yet as corrupt in their practices as would be exposed in the later decades of the 19th century, it isn't a leap to suppose it might have already been taking place. Jane Addams, one of Chicago's foremost activists and reformers, had established her Hull House settlement home in 1889. That's less than 20 years after this story takes place, which means that social issues were already gaining attention. Upton Sinclair's journalistic expose, The Jungle, was published in 1905, little more than 30 years after Chicago's fire, which supports the idea that these industries were taking advantage of their workers for a much longer period than we probably know. I also feel it necessary to explain that as a historical fiction writer, I try to represent the attitudes and vocabulary that were prevalent in that era. That does not mean I always agree with or approve of those attitudes. But it is my belief that one way we can shine light on what not to do or how not to behave is by showing it for what it was at the time. Avoiding writing about those attitudes only ensures that they will be repeated in the future. Though I know that the term Indian is considered to be insulting today, I used the term in the story because it was the common name at the time. It was not a slur. It was a misappropriation. Where possible, I refer to the Native Americans by their tribe name. But that would not always be consistent with how a character would say it, and a more contemporary term wouldn't have been in use.